Chapter 19: Infectious Diseases Manifesting on the Skin and Eyes. Skin and its defenses. The skin, together with the hair, nails, and sweat and oil glands, forms the integument. Total surface area of 1.2 to 2 square meters. Thickness varies from 1.5 millimeters in places such as the eyelid, 4 millimeters on the soles of the feet. Outermost portion of the skin is the epidermis. The top layer is thick epithelial cells called stratum corneum, about 25 cells thick. Cells in this layer are dead and migrated from the deeper layers during the normal course of cell division. Keratin gives cells the ability to withstand damage and abrasion. The lowest layer, stratum basal or basal layer, is attached to the underlying dermis. Source for all cells that make up the dermis. The dermis is composed of connective tissues, rich matrix of fibroblast cells and fibers such as collagen, and it contains macrophages and mast cells. Harbors a defense network of nerves, blood vessels, and lymphatic vessels. Damage to the dermis, a blister forms as a result of friction or burns. Roots of hair are called follicles in the dermis. Oil glands and scent glands are associated with hair follicles. These glands have openings on the surface of the skin. They will pass through the epidermis. Most effective skin defense against infection is small molecules called antimicrobial peptides. Positively charged chemicals that act by disrupting membranes of bacteria. It is responsible for keeping the microbial count on skin low. Sebum gland secretion called sebum has a low pH, which makes the skin inhospitable to most microorganisms. Oily due to high concentration of lipids. Lipids serve as nutrient for normal microbiota. Breakdown of fatty acids lead to toxic byproducts that inhibit the growth of other microbes not adapted to the skin. Normal biota of the skin is inhospitable to the growth of many microorganisms. Its vast, dry, salty surfaces are coated in toxic antimicrobial lipids. More dense microbial populations, such as the underarm and groin areas, and in the protective environment of the hair follicles and glandular ducts. Hundreds of species of microbes are distributed over many areas of the body. 5 major taxa are represented in the microbiota. The predermis of these groups varied in the different regions of the body sampled. Large differences among people with respect to the types of microbes found in various skin sites. An individual skin microbiota seems to be relatively stable over time. Staphylococcus epidermis and P. acnes are the most numerous on skin due to their high tolerance of salt conditions. 4% of the populations carry Staphylococcus epidermis. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus, also known as MRSA, is common in most skin lesions. It's a gram-positive coccus that grows in clusters, can be highly virulent, appears normal in the skin of a small but significant portion of the population. It's resistant to multiple antibiotics. They tend to be raised, red, tender, localized lesions, often having pus, and they're hot to the touch. Occurs easily in breaks of the skin caused by injury, shaving, or abrasion. Treatment often starts with the incision of the lesion and damage and drainage of the pus. Should include more than one antibiotic. Vancomycin is usually prescribed, but it depends on the antibiotic resistant patterns. Impetigo is the superficial bacteria infection that causes the skin to flake or peel off. Not a serious disease, but highly contagious, and children are the primary victims. Caused by other Staphylococcus or aspergillus in a mixture of the two. Lesions are mostly found around the mouth, face, and extremities. Most important factors relevant to Escherichia impetigo or exotoxins called exfoliative toxins A and B. They attack a protein that is very important for epithelial cell-to-cell binding, the outermost layer of the skin. Breaking up this protein leads to the blistering. Streptococcus, it's also known as strep throat, scarlet fever, pneumonia, necrotizing fasciitis, serious bloodstream infections, and post-streptococcal conditions such as rheumatic fever. Transmitted through direct contact, only prevention is good hygiene. Cellulitis is a condition caused by fast-spreading infection in the dermis and in the subcutaneous tissues below, causes pain, tenderness, swelling, and warmth. Fever and swelling of the lymph nodes may occur. Frequently red lines leading away from the area are visible, generally following the introduction of bacteria or fungus into the dermis, either through trauma or by sublingual means. Very common in the lower legs. Cause staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome. It's caused by S. aureus, predominantly in newborns and babies. Transmissions may occur when caregivers carry the bacteria from one baby to another. Approximately 30% of adults are asymptomatic carriers. Carriers can harbor the bacterium in the nasopharynx, axilla, perineum, and even bullous lesions often appear around the umbilical cord or in the diaper or axilla area. Begin red areas that look like wrinkled tissue paper and then form large blisters. Widespread desquamation of the skin follows. Patient is vulnerable to secondary infection, cellulitis, and bacterial. Gangrene, also known as Clostridial monocrosis, endospores of these species can be found in soil, on human skin, and in the human intestine and vagina. Requires anaerobic conditions to manufacture and release the exotoxins that cause the damage and the disease. Anaerobic cellulitis remains localized and does not spread into healthy tissue. True monocrosis spreads to the nearby healthy tissue, can quickly progress to the entire limb or body, destroying tissue as it goes. 3 diseases that present as rashes on the body. The lesions contain fluid. Lesions are often called pox. Chickenpox, smallpox, and hand, foot, and mouth disease are all 3 viral diseases. Chickenpox can be life-threatening in immunocompromised people, older adolescents, and adults. There's a vaccine available for infants and children, usually lasts 4 to 7 days. Shingle is a reactivation after a chickenpox infection. It enters the sensory endings of nerves and dermatomes. Months or years later, the virus may reemerge from these cells, resulting in densely packed lesions on the portion of the skin served by that nerve. Develops abruptly after the virus is reactivated by a stimulus such as psychological stress. There's a vaccine available for people over 50. Smallpox is a naturally occurring. Smallpox has largely been eliminated, still considered a biological terror threat, leaves serious scar tissues. Major is highly virulent, leading to toxemia, shock, and intravascular coagulation. Minor is the RAS is less dense, a patient experiences weaker symptoms. Infant mouth disease is most common in babies and children under 5. Starts with a fever, sore throat. First spots erupt inside the mouth. Red or blister-like spots appear on the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, and often the genitals, buttocks, knees, and elbows. Caused by a number of different viruses. Measles, you get a sore throat, dry cough, headache, conjunctivitis, and fever. It begins in the head and then progresses to the trunk and extremities until most of the body is covered. Small number of cases develop laryngitis, bronchopneumonia, and bacterial secondary infections. Most serious complications, subacute rubella is also known as German measles. It's relatively minor rash, disease with few complications. Serious damage can occur when a fetus is exposed to this virus. Fifth disease is also known as erythema. Reddish rash that begins on the face. It's rather mild, lasting 5 to 10 days. Can be transmitted through the placenta. Rosella is common in young children and babies. It has a high fever that comes on quickly and lasts up to 3 days. Seizures can occur with this. Wart-like eruptions. All types of warts are caused by viruses, more often children than adults. Seed warts are painless, elevated, rough growths on the finger and occasionally on other body parts. Plantar warts, often caused by HPV-1, they are deep and painful on the soles of the feet. Flat warts are smooth, skin-colored lesions that develop on the face, trunk, elbows, and knees. They are smooth, waxy nodules on the face, trunk, and limbs, contain milky fluid containing epidermal cells filled with particles. It's common in children. In adults, it's mostly in the genital areas. Surface of the eye. Conjunctiva is a very thin membrane-like tissue that covers the eye and lines the eyelid. The cornea is a dome-shaped central portion of the eye lying over the iris. The eye's best defense is the film of tears, which consists of aqueous fluid, oil, and mucus. Conjunctivitis is infection of the conjunctiva is relatively common. Bacterial infections, viral, allergic response, redness, and eyelid swelling are common.